Hello and welcome to this ongoing series of confessions. I am your ranter, um, and this is something I've been thinking about for some time, so I'm just kind of going to get into it. Um, it's kind of the reason I'm hopeful about the future, just in general, and I'll obviously use some biblical, but I'm also going to use some pagan philosophies and things that have been passed down for humanity. And just some kind of trends that I've noticed. So, um, biblically referencing the book of Judges, it's the story of Gideon. You know, any of us that grew up in children's church know it. It's probably one of the most widely known Old Testament stories because it's about the guy that gets 300 people to drink water properly. Scooping it up to singing it, and then they took over Midian. They defeated Midian by doing scare tactics, shit like that. But I want to talk about the first part about it, and it's in Judges 6, and it talks about how Midian, the country, the Midianites were basically attacking the Israelites, and the Israelites were scared shitless, so they hid in caves. In fact, the angel of the Lord appeared to Gideon while he was in a cave hiding from Midian. And it's interesting because kind of he tests God 3 different times. He's ordered to take down Baal and Asheroth poles, basically the altar of Baal and the symbol of Asheroth, and get rid of the false gods. I know it's odd that I said I would reference paganism in this episode too, but bear with me to kind of explain just over my overall philosophy. And so he does so at night, and when he does it, everyone figures out, oh, it was Gideon who did it. So they go to his father. His father's like, hey, if Baal's a real god, let him defend himself. Then after that, Gideon basically tests the Lord twice to basically confirm, hey, you're not just playing with me. Okay. So there's kind of this, what I take out of that in a more like a secular. I'm going to get a little abstract on this. So for me, the concept of Yahweh is the embodiment of good, the true embodiment of good. I absolutely think there's an embodiment of chaos, order and chaos. So Yahweh, Judaism is actually the first sky cult in recorded history. What I mean by that is typically our worship has been earth cult. It's typically more feminine in nature, worshiping images. All forms of art are basically pagan worship. If you want a reference point, highly recommend Camille Paglia's Sexual Personae. It's a fantastic book. She covers all of this in a much better way than I will ever be able to. But there are a couple of points that you want to take away from it. You want to take away that there is the Apuleian and the Dionysian. What are these? Well, the Apuleian is a reference to Apollo, the sun god. Greek high art is Apuleian. The darker stuff is Dionysian, after Dionysus, the bearded woman god. It's kind of funny how we live in that society, and all for people. You want to transition as an adult, perfectly think that's awesome. You should do so. You should do whatever makes you happy. But I want you to be informed, just speaking as someone who's worked in medical industry. There's a lot of shady doctors out there who do a lot of shady shit. So make sure you're making the best decision for you. Making an informed decision. We can get into all. I don't really want to debate, and I want to get speak blessings, but yeah, that's just kind of where I stand on it. But the reason I want to bring up Dionysus is I think we are in a Dionysian age. There's no high culture. There's no high art. Everything is just kind of grody, kind of dirty. Kind of, it's Dionysian. It's the whole point of it. It's supposed to like put out feelers to find what is, what isn't. And we've been in the Dionysian age for some time now, and it's time to start considering heading back to Napoleon age. What does that entail? Well, using Gideon as an example, that entails getting rid of our sacred cows. That entails tearing down certain altars that we've built. What are those altars? And tearing down our Asheroth poles. What do those entail? Personally, I think we need to do away with this cultural Marxist idea of all of us being against each other. This dichotomous thinking is going to kill us. I think we need to come together as one human species and try to better our society. Now, again, I'm speaking again as an American, so obviously what I'm saying is mostly based around wanting to live as good of a life as possible in America and have everyone live as good of a life as possible in America. So, I mean, we should talk about the Fed. We're at about $1 trillion a year in interest payments to the Federal Reserve. We don't have strong economic backing, and we all can look around and see how fucked we are with this inflation and shit. And, you know, I'm not an expert. Will say this till I'm blue in the face. I am just a guy shit talking on the internet, trying to have conversations more so than anything else that I want to talk about. And I think it's time we deeply, deeply consider what we are willing to do. So my encouragement to you is test God. If you feel passionate about something, if you feel that you need to do something to help fix our society, give it 3 tests. Give it 3 tests, and if each time those tests come back screaming yes, 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 go for it. I really do hope we find peace. I really do hope that we stop this warmongering that has been going on since Nixon. Kissinger has basically been controlling American politics and forcing us into wars, military-industrial complex, and actually it's gone back, goes even further back if you want to get into like FDR and stuff like that. But sacred cows, you know. This is really turning into more of a rant than I intended it to. But think it's important that we all know this. I think that it's important that we all move forward. One thing that's really moved me, to get a little more personal, I never joined the military. I have ancestry that is my I have family roots all the way back to the Revolutionary War, and I didn't join, much to the disappointment of my grandfather, much to sometimes I think the disappointment of my father, but at the same time he's happy just because he saw the writing on the walls himself while he was in. But I think it's important that we not let our ancestors' sacrifices be in vain. They have given us tremendous blessings, and we owe that to them. And, you know, Gideon was hiding. All of Israel was hiding from Midian as it preyed upon them, as it destroyed their wealth, destroyed their resources. I guess it's actually less of a rant now because this gets into it. You know, we can talk about all the evils that the U.S. government has done, from Operation Paperclip, where we brought in 1,600 Nazi elites into the medical field, science and engineering. They've basically taken over academia, or they're involved in it. Talk about the Tuskegee experiments, where we basically gave black people syphilis just because of the hell of it. Wanted to test it out. We could talk about, go back to the Trail of Tears. We could talk about the fact that slavery in the North was actually worse, and that the Emancipation Proclamation only was to try to get slaves to revolt in the South. They weren't actually freeing any slaves in the North. Thank God we actually ended that shit. Thank God we actually did completely end it, because it's atrocious. One of the worst things in humanity that still is going on. Like, we've been enslaving each other for centuries. And it's an absolutely disgusting trade. We think about like all the sexual trafficking that's going on too. That is damn slavery. Like that's still going on. And you know, we have a lot of big banks actually involved in the whole Epstein case, and we've done nothing. We've bickered. You know, there's the whole conservative movement. There was the Crowder versus Daily Wire bullshit. There is the Eliza Blue versus the Quartering and all of this bullshit. This is all bullshit. There's fucking Nazis who infiltrated our system that we let in. There are people that have been trying to control us forever. And it is this terrible, terrible thing. We should all desire freedom. We should all fight for liberty. Because at the end of the day, we live in America. And I don't. It's a blessing to be able to be free. You know, like, whether no matter how you look at it, you have the Civil Rights Movement. That was a movement paved in blood. The Civil War was a movement paved in blood. The Revolutionary War, that's a movement paved in blood. These were brave men and women fighting for the betterment of their world. And we owe them the same caliber of resolve that they gave to us, we need to give that to our children. Say this as a bachelor, single male, no child. So maybe all I can do is talk shit on the internet. Pray for your leaders. Violence is not going to solve anything. Seriously humble yourself and pray. That has been kind of my goal for myself, and again, purely from a more religious point. You know, I understand if you secular people, if I lose you, so it's fine. Get involved in your community. Help your neighbors. Show them love. That's the only way we are going to stop this shit if we start within our communities by showing love to each other. So, find out what your Baal altar is. Find out what your Asheroth pole is. Get rid of it.